Apotheosis Chapter 13. After all, Xie Lang was a half-step Xiantian expert. His reaction was extremely fast. Facing this heavy punch, he stomped on the ground and his entire body flew out. However, Luo Zheng's punch was extremely fast. It still hit Xie Lang's body. Although Xie Lang used his retreating action to reduce half of the force, the normal force still caused Xie Lang's blood to churn. After landing, Xie Lang spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, he said with a complicated expression, "You're actually not dead yet. Thanks to you, I'm not dead yet," Luo Zheng said as he clenched his fist. He was secretly shocked in his heart. He had already stepped into the viscera refinement stage, and his strength had already reached 3 cauldrons of strength. Relying on the dragon scale on the azure dragon relief sculpture, his strength had more than doubled. In the punch just now, he had mobilized all the strength in his body. He wanted to take advantage of Xie Lang's unpreparedness and kill him in one blow. He didn't expect Xie Lang's reaction to be so fast. He had almost dodged his extremely threatening punch in an instant. Compared to Luo Zheng, Xie Lang was even more shocked. This brat was merely in the viscera refining realm. This kind of strength was not worth mentioning at all. However, after throwing this brat into the crafting furnace and refining it, how did his strength suddenly increase? If he hadn't dodged that punch quickly, he would have been killed by this brat's punch. "Where's my karmic fire sword?" Xie Lang asked. In comparison, he was most concerned about his own treasure. Luo Zheng smiled and spread his hands towards Xie Lang. He revealed 2 rows of white teeth and said, "Of course it was eaten by me." "Eaten by you?" Xie Lang's face revealed an expression of disbelief. The hardness of a high-grade profound weapon was extremely high. How could it be eaten by someone? However, looking at this brat's naked body, there was no place to hide the karmic fire sword. The crafting furnace was also empty. Where was the shadow of his karmic fire sword? Xie Lang's face was filled with rage as he shouted sternly, "Where did my karmic fire sword go? I already said that I ate it." Luo Zheng felt that he was telling the truth. The karmic fire sword had been refined into molten iron essence by the black flames and was swallowed by the Qinglong in his mind. It could indeed be said that he had eaten it. "Alright, since you said you ate it, I'll cut open your stomach and see if it's in your stomach." As soon as his voice fell, Xie Lang's figure instantly exploded. His pair of withered branch-like hands grabbed towards Luo Zheng's chest. He actually wanted to forcefully rip open Luo Zheng's stomach. How could Luo Zheng allow Xie Lang to touch him so easily? After going through the tempering of the true fire, the strength of his body had increased once again. Now, his body was comparable to a mid-grade profound artifact. He moved his feet lightly, and with the use of his strength, the bones in his entire body exploded, reverberating throughout the cave. It was as if there were bursts of thunder, deafening the ears. Red Sandalwood Inch Punch. In a head-on clash, Luo Zheng was not weak at all. In terms of physical strength, Luo Zheng was a Xian weapon. After being calcined by the real fire, his body was comparable to a middle-grade Xian weapon. In terms of strength, although he was only at the viscera refining stage, with the help of the awakened power of the dragon scale, he wouldn't lose out to even a half-step Xiantian expert. What's more, Xie Lang had used his true fire to calcine him for 20 hours. It was close to a day and a night. The strength in his entire body was already exhausted. He was like an arrow at the end of its flight. Just as the two of them were about to clash, Xie Lang's figure tilted. He actually drew an arc in the air at an extremely fast speed, and chopped with his hand. Roaring flame blade. Ping! The strength of a half-step Xiantian expert was astonishing. Moreover, Xie Lang's attack was mixed with the burning power of his true fire. This hand chop actually split open a crack on Luo Zheng's skin. Luo Zheng and Xie Lang were both extremely shocked. Xie Lang was shocked that Luo Zheng's body was actually so hard. In Xie Lang's memory, even the bodies of those special races in the savage lands couldn't be so hard. His roaring flame blade contained the power of his true fire. Even if it was reinforced steel and iron bones, it could split open with one chop. However, when the attack just now cut open Luo Zheng's skin and touched his bones, it actually made a sound of metal clashing. What was going on? Could it be that this brat's body itself was a Xian tool? Luo Zheng was shocked that Xie Lang could still be so fast in this kind of situation. He couldn't catch Xie Lang's figure at all. So what if your body is hard? After all, you are only in the viscera refining realm. Today, you are destined to die here. I will refine your body and make up for my loss. As soon as Xie Lang finished speaking, he rushed towards Luo Zheng with a series of afterimages. Bang, a sound was heard. Another wound appeared on Luo Zheng's body and blood flowed out. Clang! Bang! Every time Xie Lang charged at Luo Zheng, a terrifying wound would appear on his body. The situation was very unfavorable for Luo Zheng. Although his body's strength was terrifying now, Xie Lang relied on his speed advantage to continuously attack him. He had no chance of winning. He would be exhausted to death by Xie Lang. In this kind of situation, he could only take the risk. Luo Zheng suddenly closed his eyes. His hands hung down. It seemed that he had completely given up on resisting. Since he couldn't catch Xie Lang, no matter how hard he tried, it would be useless. You gave up just like that? Xie Lang was also a person who had experienced hundreds of battles. Seeing Luo Zheng like this, he didn't let down his guard. Instead, he attacked Luo Zheng with his roaring flame blade at an extremely high speed. 2 more wounds appeared on Luo Zheng's body. Hee, let's see how long you can endure. Xie Lang laughed shrilly and rushed towards Luo Zheng again. This time, it seemed that he wanted to cut Luo Zheng with his blade again. However, the moment he got close to Luo Zheng, he circled to the back of Luo Zheng's head. His hands lit up with lotus flames. Xie Lang let out a shrill laugh as he charged towards Luo Zheng's head. He actually wanted to pull Luo Zheng's head out of his body. He's coming. At the critical moment, Luo Zheng suddenly opened his eyes. He had been waiting for this opportunity. Suddenly, he used his arms to protect his head. Just when Xie Lang's hands touched Luo Zheng's arms, Luo Zheng twisted his hands and firmly held Xie Lang's skinny arms. Then, he shouted, "Get down!" Bang! Under the impact of the huge force, Luo Zheng pressed Xie Lang to the ground. The ground of the cave was made of hard stone walls. However, it couldn't withstand this force. The ground was torn apart and Xie Lang was still struggling desperately. He wanted to climb out of the big pit. However, Luo Zheng didn't give Xie Lang a chance at all. Xie Lang's speed was too fast. If he was allowed to climb out, Luo Zheng might not be able to catch him. There was only one chance. Luo Zheng was like a crazy beast. He punched again and again. Each punch had the strength of a few thousand pounds. He smashed the pit with all his might. After dozens of punches, he finally stopped. He breathed heavily and looked at Xie Lang lying in the pit among the rocks. He didn't make any more sound. With the strength of the viscera refining realm, it was still difficult to deal with a half-step innate realm. This Xie Lang had used up all the true fire in his body. Furthermore, his sneak attack was successful. In this kind of situation, Xie Lang was still able to fight back. If his reaction was a little slower, he would have been strangled by Xie Lang. The one lying on the ground would probably be Luo Zheng. Life's fate was unpredictable. This notorious Xiantian realm expert had been smashed to death by him in the end. Luo Zheng calmed himself down and went to check on the 8 living people on the furnace. Because their flesh and blood had been sucked dry, they had long become dead. He went to check the iron cages again. When he got closer, he found that those people were actually roasted to death by Xie Lang's true fire. Their deaths were too horrible to look at. Luo Zheng mourned for those people in his heart. He walked around the big cave twice. Other than some broken copper and iron, he didn't find anything else. It shouldn't be. Generally, weapon refiners were very rich. Especially Xie Lang, who had been famous for a long time, it was impossible for him to be so poor. After looking around, Luo Zheng seemed to have thought of something. He turned back and dragged Xie Lang's body out of the big pit. Xie Lang's skeleton-like body had already been smashed by Luo Zheng's huge strength. There wasn't a single place on his body that was intact. Luo Zheng's gaze fell on Xie Lang's right hand. On the middle finger of his right hand, there was a black ring. His mind moved and he took the ring. He felt a cold consciousness flowing through his finger. Sure enough, this was a Sumuru ring. The Sumuru ring had a space inside which could store everything in the world. This kind of Sumuru ring was extremely precious. Even the smallest Sumuru ring was worth as much as a high-grade profound weapon. Even in the Luo family, no one had such a treasure. Although Luo Zheng hadn't seen it before, he had seen such a magical item in countless scrolls. At this time, Xie Lang was dead and his soul had dissipated. This Sumuru ring had become an ownerless item. With a slight movement of his consciousness, it merged with the cold divine sense transmitted from the ring. Then, Luo Zheng peeked into the things contained in the ring. The space inside the Sumuru ring wasn't big. It was estimated to be about a few square meters. It belonged to the lowest level of Sumuru ring, but there were a lot of things inside. First of all, there were various precious ores used for refining weapons. For example, refined iron, red seal stone, blood amber steel and other ores. They were neatly piled up in the corner. These ores were quite precious to weapon refiners. They could be sold at a high price. Next to the ores, there was a pile of transparent crystal stones. Luo Zheng knew these crystals. They were called square crystal stones, commonly known as square crystals. These square crystals were the real currency in the empire. Gold and silver were only the currency used by ordinary people in this world. But for real cultivators, gold was as worthless as dung. But square crystals were different. These very regular square crystals stored pure genuine qi. It was a must for masters who had stepped into the Xiantian realm. Because square crystals were easy to cut and carry, they gradually became the currency in the hands of the cultivators in this world. Luo Zheng did a rough count and found that there were no less than a few hundred square crystals stacked neatly on top of each other. This was a huge sum of money. In addition, there were some treasures placed on the other side. There was a long sword that was flickering with an enchanting light, a blood-red sledgehammer, and so on. It seemed that the grades of these treasures were not low. They were probably at the level of low-grade and middle-grade profound tools. On the other side of the Sumuru space, there were all kinds of refining books, some unknown pills, and a pile of miscellaneous items. But Luo Zheng's eyes were attracted by a throwing knife in the pile of miscellaneous items. The throwing knife was very old. The surface of the throwing knife was bumpy. More than half of the handle was broken. The blade of the throwing knife was completely curled up. Some parts of the blade were charred black. It looked very broken. But such a broken throwing knife was exuding a very special temperament. It was this special temperament that had a strong attraction to Luo Zheng. This broken throwing knife was definitely not an ordinary item. Luo Zheng's thoughts moved. He took out the broken throwing knife from the Sumuru ring and played with it for a while. The aura emitted by the throwing knife was clearer and sharper, as if it could cut through everything in the world. This kind of treasure, even if it was destroyed to such an extent, could still leave such a sharp aura. The grade of the treasure was probably unimaginably high. Xie Lang also knew that this throwing knife wasn't an ordinary thing. He estimated that he couldn't repair it with his strength, so he put it in the sumera ring. If Xie Lang couldn't repair it, he was afraid that he couldn't do anything for the time being. After playing with it for a while, he put the throwing knife back into the sumera ring and walked out of the cave. Following the winding passage, he walked all the way to the outermost part of the cave. Luo Zheng stepped on the big tree and began to climb up the cliff. There were barbs protruding from the side of the cliff. It wasn't difficult to climb up. After several times of borrowing strength, Luo Zheng quickly climbed to the top of the cliff. Standing at the top of the cliff, Luo Zheng took a deep breath of fresh air. Bathing in the warm sunlight, his face finally showed a bright smile. This time, he was able to leave the Luo family safely and escape from Xie Lang's hands. It could only be said that he was very lucky. Now he had a great harvest. He had obtained all of Xie Lang's possessions. More importantly, he had obtained freedom. After being bound in the Luo family's cellar for 2 years, he finally broke free from the Luo family. From now on, he could fly freely. He determined a direction and then crazily ran in that direction. Even though his mood wasn't bad, Luo Zheng didn't get carried away. He knew that he still had more important things to do. His destination was precisely the imperial capital. It was where the legendary Heaven-Burning Empire's core was located. At the same time, the Blue Cloud sect was also located there. Meanwhile, his younger sister Luo Yan was currently trapped in the Blue Cloud